It's time for another installment of The Musings of My Mind
with Mike Howery. I once had a conversation with a very Christian friend of mine, and because I'm a science nerd, I'm not just a science nerd. I explained to him an article that I had read recently that talked about how our spirits might actually be microenergy contained inside subcell structures within our brains. He got kind of upset. I won't relate the entire conversation to you. I will just sum it up in what he said at the very end. What right does science have hijacking our faith? Hijacking? Makes it sound like science is a terrorist trying to board a flight to heaven. Hey, you! Yeah, you with the test tubes. Take off your shoes. His overly emotional reaction made me ask a question. What is it about science that makes Christians uncomfortable? Science and religion haven't always been enemies. In fact, throughout history, they were often the same thing. In ancient Egypt, all medicine was practiced by the priests, and in the ancient Mayan cultures, astronomy was their religion. Science and Christianity were even friends until the Renaissance. You see, during that period of time, Christians saw miracles every day. Babies were born, diseases were healed, and the stars did tricks in the sky without any explanation as to why. This milk has gone sour. God must not have liked it. When science started to explain the mechanics behind the phenomenon, bacteria in the milk. Ugh. The church got very uneasy. Every day, new answers were being discovered, and it was generally believed that science would one day answer every question. The church, in response, tried to control science. In fact, they even tried to deny many of the claims that science so obviously illustrated. Sorry, Galileo, the Earth does not revolve around the sun. Because I said so! But why? What was the big conflict? Oddly enough, the religious establishment felt threatened because deep down, they really did believe that science would be able to answer all the questions, even the ones they claimed to have the answers to. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't put science first when forming my beliefs. That place is reserved for God's Word. But it doesn't bother me when science finds new answers to old questions. Why? Because in my mind, science and faith aren't at odds. I can believe that whatever it is they're discovering, God created it, and I can give him praise and glory for his wonderful complexivity. Complexivity? Complex. I think that's right. Now, science may eventually be able to explain what the Spirit is. So what? Will that mean that God didn't create it? Just because you can explain something doesn't mean you can replicate it, or take credit for it. Now, I can explain how an internal combustion engine works. Sort of. But I can't make one. Science may be able to read the DNA code now, but that doesn't mean that they can write their own from scratch. And even if someday humanity is able to create life from its composite elements, we'll still have to admit that we're only copying the work of the great master creator. So go ahead, read articles about science, watch the Discovery Channel, find out what science is discovering about our world. Don't worry, it won't ruin your faith. Unless you let it. Instead of getting scared when scientists start sounding like priests, get excited. It just means that science is finally catching up to the Bible.